Hey guys, it's 8 o'clock. We're gonna give a couple more minutes before we get going. But if you can hear me well, give a thumbs up or say something in the chat. How are we doing for audio? I've got two people assisting me tonight. I'm expanding, I'm growing. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, no one said anything.
No one said anything.
8 people. Oh, here we go. Yeah, people can hear. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Not too loud, not too soft, good volume.
Yeah.
Yeah, all right. Cool. Yeah, we'll give maybe another couple more minutes. How many people do we have?
8.
8, okay. Looking a bit plumb on screen. Just had dinner. Was curry. Starting to kick in now, so forgive me if I go slow. Anyway. Yeah, so how are you guys doing?
Lights to slim me down.
What's that?
Joel says use the lights to slim me down.
Yeah, use the lights to slim me down. Don't think so. It's not going to happen. Yeah, I hope you guys are doing okay wherever you are. I know some of you guys are obviously watching this across the country, from Tassie, from Perth, maybe some from Sydney, some from Melbourne. It's pretty cold down here in Melbourne, but we're nice and warm in one of the Ridley lecture rooms. With me tonight, I've got two assistants as opposed to one the last time, just because these webinars are obviously getting more and more complex, so I need all the help I can get. With us tonight, we've got Sarah Quinto, our marketing and communications executive. She's behind the desk. She's very excited to be pressing the buttons. Yeah, she is very excited. And behind me, this random person sitting sitting in the middle of the room. This is our marketing intern. Is it? Yeah, our marketing intern, Medi, and she's going to be helping me out by being a talent and a model in front of the camera tonight. So we're well stocked and prepared. Yeah, hopefully to have an exciting evening. How many people do we have now? 10. Cool. Okay, so I think we should get on the way and not waste everyone's time. So thank you for coming to this. I think this is my third webinar in this series on helping you guys produce nice looking sermon videos for your churches. Just to start as usual, just to say wherever you guys are, I hope you guys are traveling well in this difficult time with the epidemic. And just to encourage you guys that whatever you're doing with your sermon videos and taking your churches digitally, just know that we're all behind you, and we're here to help you and support you guys practically. So tonight we're looking at how to light your sermon videos, or just how to light videos in general, and particularly how do you light them without having to spend any money on buying lighting equipment, but by using whatever lights that you already have, which are your reading lamps, your house lights, whatever lights you might have at home already, so that you don't have to spend the big bucks. I personally like Ikea lights, because who doesn't like Ikea lights? They look nice. They have funky names. They come in all shapes and sizes, and you can get them fairly cheaply, especially if you decide to get them secondhand, either from Gumtree or Facebook Marketplace or whatever. Everyone has Ikea lights, let's face it. Well, mostly everyone. You might have Kmart lights that works as well. You might have lights from Bunnings that works as well. It's basically whatever lights that you already have, how are you going to use them to light your video? From from an artistic point of view, lighting is one of those things that people don't tend to think a lot about when they first start out doing video. Usually the first thing that people want to buy and put their money down when it comes to video is what kind of camera can I get, what kind of lens, all that sort of stuff. But lighting is actually probably second to audio, the most important thing that you need to know to get good video quality. Now, I would go so far as to argue that good lighting for your video is more important than the clothes you wear. Now, that's not to say that you shouldn't wear any clothes, but I just think that if you are going to spend 20 minutes trying to pick your wardrobe, you probably be better off spending that 20 minutes getting good lighting for your video. Like, it will go miles and miles ahead than whatever fancy stuff you wear in front of camera. Yeah. So, and good lighting is that I suppose it's one of those things where it's also subjective. There's no, shall we say, there's no hard and fast rule. It's more about understanding what does light, how does light react to things, the physics of light, what type of light what type of lamp would give you what sort of quality of the light, and knowing what you do with the light. That's more important than what sort of light you have. I hope that makes sense. So it doesn't matter how expensive a light you buy, it's more what you end up doing with the light that's more important when it comes to lighting. So I'll leave you with that. That might have been mind-blowing. That might have just been way too difficult to understand. That's cool. That's all right. It's 8 p.m. Again, I've got curry in my tummy. I might just be talking nonsense here. So the first thing I want to start out with is IKEA lights. Let's talk a bit about the different types of IKEA lights that you can find out there. And then I'll talk a bit about what's right in front of me here. Some extra things that you might already have at home that will come in handy as you're trying to adjust lights, as you're trying to modify your lights. So with IKEA lights, I tend to categorize and label them into 4 different categories. And it has to do with the size and shape of the lamps. So first and foremost, this is a Hector lamp. I'm sure a lot of you who love IKEA lamps, you would know what, like the series Hector. A lot of people might have this industrial looking lamp at home that looks like something you find in a hair salon. This is a light that gives off a very white, I'm going to put this aside here so that's not distracting. This is a light that has a very white beam, and it's basically a huge light, right? It's got a big shade. It's got a lot of light flooding everywhere. This is a light that probably would be on the top of my list to have. Something that's big, something that's wide, something that's tall. This is something that it's worth investing. Well, when I say investing, it's worth trying to find one, whether you might have it at home or whether you might be able to borrow it from a friend. This will get you quite far in a lot of the videos that you might want to light. Moving down from a big light like that, you might find something. I think this is also in the Hector series. This is a slightly smaller shade lamp. It still throws out a wide beam of light, but not as wide as this one. It's got a smaller shade, so the beam's a bit more narrow. It's a bit more, shall we say, a bit more punchy in the light. This is also something that does come in handy. And one of the good things about this Hector, I think it's Hector, correct me if I'm wrong. One of the good things about this lamp is that it comes with a adjustable arm. Yeah? You see that? It's fun, isn't it? So it's an adjustable arm, and what that means, it will give us more flexibility in the way we try and shape our light, in the way we position our lights. So this is another light that I would strongly recommend if you can get your hands on. The next type of light is a floor lamp like this, where it doesn't necessarily have a cone-shaped shade, but it has shall we say, some form of rounded shape to it, meaning that if you turn this lamp on, the function of this lamp is to throw light everywhere in a room, right? Like having a lamp like this, it's going to give you light in one direction, so you can turn the light to face whatever direction you want. But a lamp like this, the light goes off in all sorts of directions in a 360-degree direction. And the aim of a lamp like this is to perhaps light a room entirely rather than just one specific part of a room. So a light like this does come in handy, and I'll show you how a light like this how you would use it in your video. It's a bit more specialized and it takes a bit of work, but it's a light that is worth using if you do have it at home already. So that's, oh no, so sorry, we've got a few more Ikea lights. There's so many Ikea lights. I personally collect a lot of Ikea lights. I do actually pick up lights from the street, lights that people want to throw away. In fact, this light, I actually found it on the street, and I've kept it for like the last 5 years, and I'm very happy with it. It's free, right? So who's going to complain? So there are other lights like this, like from Ikea. That's just a table lamp. Again, it's got a cone shape to it. It's got a much smaller cone shape. So what does that mean? It means that it's going to throw a light with a much narrower beam. It's going to be a lot more directed. When it's a lot more directed, it's also going to be a lot more punchier. It's going to give a very different quality from a big light like this. But it has a very special use in how we want to light for videos. And then sometimes you might find the exact same model of a light from Ikea, but rather than coming with a desk base, it might include come as a clamp. So it's got a bit of a C-shaped clamp here. And this also might come in very handy if you want to put lights in very obscure positions, like putting it up on a bookshelf behind you. Having a light like this has also a lot of flexibility to it. So that's for different types of lights that I have with me tonight that is going to be part of my arsenal. I try to have as many lights as I can because, hey, having more options, you can never go wrong. The next thing to talk about is what sort of light bulb are you going to use for your lamps? And as you know, there are a huge variety of light bulbs that are on the market. All sorts of weird shapes and sizes. So what sort of light bulbs would work well for filming? In front of me, I have a few different types of light bulbs, and mainly I use LED light bulbs for filming. Reason being, one, obviously it's energy efficient, so it's going to be good for the environment. It doesn't produce heat, so that's going to be very important as well for anyone who's sitting underneath those lights in front of the camera. You want to make sure that they feel as comfortable as possible. You don't want them to, start sweating and, having the wet pit marks. That's just going to be embarrassing, just for everyone. So having LED lights is always a lifesaver, just for that very simple reason. And to be quite honest, like most light bulbs that you find at Kmart or at the supermarket and in Bunnings, they're mostly LEDs now. So in fact, I think it's actually harder to find traditional light bulbs than LEDs. So you should be good to go. One tip is if you're going to buy LED light bulbs to refit the lamps, try and buy them all from the same brand and try and avoid mixing and matching different brands. The reason for that is not all LED lights are built the same. LED light bulbs do come in different qualities. Some might, are shall we say subpar in quality. Some are obviously much better in quality. And the last thing you want to do is to try and find different brands of light bulbs and put them all together, because that's going to create a lot of weird color problems for you. So if you can, try and find light bulbs from the same brand. Light bulbs also come in all sorts of different voltages. I would recommend that you try and find the light bulb that gives you the highest voltage output. But you also need to check if your lights can take them as well. So in an IKEA light, you would very easily find underneath the shade, they would give you some instructions already about what the maximum power voltage the lamp can take. So this one can take a maximum of 11 volts, and I think this big one actually takes up to 45, I think. Oh, 53, there you go, yeah. So maximum wattage is 53. So my recommendation is that if you can try and match what the maximum output is on the lamps, that's always ideal, but if you can't, that's fine. Try and find the brightest light bulb that you can find off the shelf. So back to light bulb types. This is a LED light bulb I bought from eBay. It's a traditional light bulb, circular. It will give you a nice soft look to it. No dramas there. This one is a light bulb I bought from Bunnings, I think, and it's a floodlight, right? So some of you might have that in your garage or in your backyard. So floodlights, they're a lot bigger, and they're obviously going to give you a different style of lighting because what they're meant to do is to throw light in one direction, right? So hence the cone shape, if you can see, the cone shape light bulb, as opposed to something like this traditional one where it's round and it's meant to throw light in all sorts of directions. This one is going to give you a much punchier light feel to it. So this would come in handy at times because if it's throwing light in one direction, chances are it's going to have a much, much brighter light output than something like this one. And then you've got something small like this that's cheap. I think I bought this from eBay. It's like one of those Chinese-made light bulbs. It's just a weird, I don't know, Doctor Who type of light bulb. Yeah, so you've got something small like this as well that can come in handy. The next thing to talk about light bulbs is that they come in two different colors, as you may already know. That's either in white color or in warm white color. So my suggestion to you also is that you try and standardize that. If you're going to get one color of light, get it all the same for all your lights. If you want to get a white color one, just keep it all the same as well. There are occasions where you might want to mix and match two different colors, which I will demonstrate to you later on. But as a rule of thumb, try and keep them all consistent if nothing else. So that's that for light bulbs. A few other things that might come in handy that's on the table that you might already have at home are things like a pair of scissors, because you can never go wrong with a pair of scissors. You might have some of these clamps from Bunnings, these heavy-duty clamps. These will come in handy as well, and they're really cheap. Like I think, it's something like $3 or something from Bunnings. If you don't have these sort of clamps, then you can use office clips. Everyone has office clips. Get the biggest office clips that you can find. That's also handy. Lots and lots and lots of masking tape. I've got a few different varieties of tapes. The more tape you can find, why not, right? It's all about options, options, options. Another thing that will come in handy is a roll of baking paper. And we're not making brownies, we're not making cookies, but having a roll of baking paper can actually help get you a good light quality, and I'll also demonstrate to you how you can use baking paper for that. So, and then this is, I don't know what this is, some sort of translucent colored gel paper that I found in my cupboard. I just so happen to have it. Just thought it might come in handy. And also a piece of white artboard that I found from Bunnings as well. This is something that I bought like 3-4 years ago, and I've actually used it on a number of things. So something like this would come in handy if you can't find a whiteboard. Like really anything white and big would do the trick. Something like a styrofoam board or a tablecloth might even work as well. Just as long as it's big, it's flat, and it's white. So as you can tell, a lot of things here that you can find from around the house that you already have, or you can just spend, a few $1 a few couple of dollars here and there to add to your arsenal, and also a water bottle to lubricate yourself. So that's that for just a list of things that you might need to light your videos. I think at this point, the next part of this webinar, I'm going to demonstrate for you how I would bring all these lights together. So, but at this stage, I think it might be worth taking some questions from the audience, if there are any, before we proceed.
Daryl wrote, can you please comment on the warmth of the light, bright white versus warm light, etc.?
Okay. So Daryl has asked, can I comment on the difference between the warmth of the light between yellow and white? Yes, I can. So, with white, so there's two types of lights, white light and yellow light. With white light, if your white light tends to resemble the light that we see when the sun is high up in the noon, right? When, quote unquote, that's the sort of light where it's at its purest. It's white, it's not artificial, there's no coloring to it, it's just pure white. White light has several uses. It's probably the most common light that is used in filming. You would use white light when you're trying to complement, I guess, with the sun outdoors. So again, we were talking about you don't want to mix color lighting too much because it might give you a weird color cast if you try and mix the two different color temperatures too much. So let's just say I'm filming with this with a window behind me and it's bright outside. It's 12 in the afternoon. What light am I going to use to complement what's outside? I would recommend using a white light because that's when the temperature is more or less the same. Again, depending on what light bulb you buy, some light bulbs might give you just a slight off-white cast. Some will give you as pure light as possible. So it depends on the brand of light bulbs that you buy. So I would recommend that you try and test out which one will give you the best quality. It's easier to talk about what's the use of warm light, yellow light, than it is to talk about what's the use of white light. So with warm light, the terminology for it is tungsten. With tungsten light, the main use for it is when you want to use it, like it's nighttime right now, you're indoors. Using tungsten light is probably the best thing that you can do. Why? Traditionally, our eyes perceive yellow light as indoor light. So you think about it as what do people normally, what source of light do people normally have that's natural, that's at night? If you're at a campfire, the fire is a warm light, right? Like it's yellow, it's red, it's hot, it's warm. If you light a candle at home, it's yellow, it's red, it's warm. So having a tungsten colored light helps to emulate that sort of natural light that we perceive in the natural world. Also, with tungsten light, you tend to find that it will give your skin color a much richer tone to it. For some reason, when we shine warm orange light on our skin, the pigments on our skin tend to reflect a much richer, saturated look to it than just white light. I'm not sure why that's the case, but that's just been the science that's proven behind it. And also, if you're a person with olive-colored skin or with a darker toned skin, a tungsten warm yellow light is going to give you a much more pleasing look than a white light as well. So there's just some practical tips about what's the difference between using a white light and a yellow light.
Joshua Skeet said, interested in uplight versus downlight, also light behind the camera or between the camera and speaker.
Okay, yep. So the question is the difference between an uplight or a light shining up from below, or a light that's, sorry, what was it? Next, beside the speaker?
Also behind the camera or
behind the camera or between the camera. So I'll get into that more as we're doing the demonstration in a bit. But thank you for that question. That's all. Okay, good. Everyone knows everything about lighting now. That's why there's no questions.
Thanks so much.
Cool. Okay, so now we are going to get our lovely assistant, Maddie, involved in this next segment. And I'm going to push this table back to give myself more space. Ta-da! It disappeared. And we'll put this light aside for now. We'll turn it off. We'll put this light here as well. Yep, cool. Okay, so it's really dark, isn't it? So can everyone see Maddie? Cool. Okay, so this is what the shot looks like to my eye. Well, or to the camera's eye now. It's dark. It's ugly. It just looks depressing, doesn't it? So I'm going to turn on the ceiling lights just so that you can see what it looks like if we turn the ceiling lights on. So this is with our ceiling lights on, and this might be something that you might everyone has ceiling lights at home. So this is what it looks like. Nothing fancy. We can see Maddie, but it's not the prettiest image, isn't it? The reason why it's not pretty is because when we have lights that are just shining straight down from the top, you can see what we call skull eyes. Sorry, I'm just going to turn this around, Maddie. So you can see underneath Maddie's eyes, she has these socket shadow that's being caused by the light that's coming straight from above her. And that's obviously giving her face a much, shall we say, a very sunken look. It's not pleasing, it's not flattering, it's not what she looks like in real life. And so that's just to explain to you why is it that lighting is so important, and lighting changes the mood, changes the way we perceive people's face, et cetera, that sort of thing. So that's what the house lights look like. First thing I would always say with lighting is that you want to try and control the lights as much as possible. Controlling the lights as much as possible does mean that you want to make sure that you can work from a dark canvas, right? It's a black dark canvas. That way we know we can control every single aspect of our lights that we try and introduce into the scene. The first thing I would do is to bring in this huge hunk of a chunk Ikea light, the Hector light. And I'm going to put it almost right beside Maddie. Angle it beside her. So the light is not directly in front of her. It's not directly in front of her like that. It's more on an angle, like a at a 2 o'clock angle to the side of her. Now, coming back to that question was it Daryl that asked? Oh, I can't remember who asked it. Okay, sorry. So Josh asked the question, what's the difference in the position of the lighting between, like if we put the light directly in front of her or to the side of her? So I'm going to demonstrate that this moment. So if we put the light directly in front of Maddie, so that's fine, right? It's actually much better than the ceiling light, but you can still see she's got a lot of harsh shadow right underneath her chin here. So that's not entirely flattering because it just looks like she might be having a double chin. Sorry, Maddie. But in some scenarios it might work. If you are filming an interrogation scene, you might feel like having a crime thriller scene in your sermon video might be important. Then yeah, sure, something like that would work very well. So what happens if we put the light 90 degrees to the side of Maddie, like completely flush to the right side? What are we going to get? Oh, we've got a very, very dramatic shot, right? It looks like a Game of Thrones type of shot, isn't it? So this is, I can't quite remember the technical term, but basically what we have here is that exactly half of Maddie's face on the right side is lit, and the other side is in complete darkness. Now, this definitely is the type of shot that is very common. You'll find very common in shows that have intense drama. It's it's something that you would find, like, again, in crime shows or in very intense type of scenes, and it definitely does come in. It does get used quite often in shows, but for the purposes of our sermons, like if you're going to record for a sermon video, this might not really be the look you're going for. Maybe you might be doing a sermon on a dark passage in Psalms or in Judges or whatever, some Old Testament passage, and you might think, oh, I really need to get a very dramatic look and feel to it. Yeah, sure, that might work for you. But for the purposes of doing a sermon video, I'm going to recommend that having the lamp at a 2 o'clock from the subject is going to be your best bet, or at least that's where you want to start first. Yep. And the reason we're using the big Hector lamp is because this is what we call the key light. So the key light is basically your main source of light, your main direction of where the light is coming from. And so we want something that's big, that's soft, that's also sitting above the head as well. That's going to give a much pleasant look than from behind if we were to shine the light from beneath Maddie's face. Just for the sake of demonstration, I will show you what it looks like if we shine a light beneath from below. I'm just going to use my phone. So if we shine a light from below, what do we get?
Terrifying.
We've got a Dracula scene. We've got the zombie apocalypse, or zombies as they like to refer it these days. Yep, so I don't know. That might be your thing. Yeah. There's no right and wrong. It's all whatever you think is going to work best for you. So back to the Hector lamp. And I'm going to try and inch the light as close as possible before it gets into the scene, into the shot, because I want the light output out of the light. Yep. Doing all right, Maddie?
Yep.
Cool. Okay. So we've got something of a 2 o'clock angle. Yep. So the other thing as well is I've got a bit of light happening in the background. I'm going to turn off one of my lights in the back that I don't need. Yep. So there we go. We've got something. So at this stage, what I'm also seeing is that I'm getting a lot of light spilling in the background here. And that's not something that I necessarily would want, because if light is spilling in the background here, whatever light I'm going to introduce in the background is not going to have much of an effect. So I want to isolate the light that's shining on Maddie, isolate it away from the background as much as possible. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask Maddie, can you pull yourself forward by maybe 50 centimeters or a meter or something like that? So I'm going to ask her to pull forward. I'm going to push my camera back. And now she's further away from the background, which then also means, oops, you might have to take your tea, which also means I can pull my light further away from the wall behind her as well. So I've got a slightly darker image. Sorry, I've got less light on the wall at the back now. All right, so that's for the key light. The next thing I'm going to do is introduce a fill light. So at the moment, actually, sorry, I'm not going to introduce a fill light. I'm going to introduce a backlight. So I'm going to take this other Hector lamp with the boom arm, the arm here. I'm going to position it just behind Maddie, and I'm going to shine this light on her hair. Sorry, there's a bit of juggling act going on here. Okay, so Now you can see I'm gonna try and angle the light up as high as possible. Right, I'm gonna turn the light on. Cool, okay. So this is what we call the backlight. Now, as you can see, what the backlight essentially does, it's a light that we position from behind the subject, and what it's doing at the moment, it's giving us a nice sheen to the hair on our subject here. It's giving us a nice glow over her shadow, and the point of doing this is so that we can see definitions around the subject's body. When we see the definitions of the body, it helps us differentiate from what's happening behind and gives us a more three-dimensional image to the body. So backlighting is quite important. And say, for example, if I didn't have a key light, I turn off the key light. Just by having the backlight, you can still see Maddie's face, like she's not in complete darkness, but it's definitely not as bright as before. But you can definitely make out the shape of her body. You can make out the shape of her shoulder, her hair. And that's something that's very important when it comes to lighting, because we want to see our body shapes to be able to understand what the three-dimensional space is like. If you notice, like on this white camera, on the white camera here, I'm not being lit by anything. So you can see my body sort of fades into the darkness, and that's not very good because obviously you can't see the shape of my body. So that's what a backlight does. It helps you define what the body shape is. Now at the moment, if we look back at Maddie, at the moment there's just a bit too much light that's happening at the back here. You can see how it's just a bit too bright. And also the light is starting to come into short, which is not ideal. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take a chair, a tall chair, a tall stool. I'm going to place it beside Maddie, and I'm going to sit this light on the stool to raise it up. And hopefully nothing falls. Yeah, cool. You all right, Maddie? That's good. All right, so I've put the light on the stool, and I've got a bit more leverage. My lamp is out of shot, and there's less. The light is also less intense now. Beautiful, cool. Okay, I'm going to turn back on my big Hector key light. Oh boy, that's bright, isn't it? Cool. Okay, so that's not too bad. Just going to move the camera a bit back so that we can see more of you. Okay, so the chair's in the shot. I'll just pull that out a little bit. Cool, okay. So that's not too bad. That's okay. But she's still really dark on the left side of her, still really dark on the left side of her face over there. So what can we do? So rather than having to bring in a third light, which is called a fill light, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my trusty piece of white foam board to reflect some of the light that's coming off from this big Hector light back onto Maddie on her left side. And as you can see, like just even standing here, you can see the difference. If I lift up the whiteboard close to my face, you can see how my face, the whiteboard actually is reflecting a lot of the light up here. So it's a very effective tool to have, just using a whiteboard to reflect light. I'm going to get myself a light stand. So I'm going to cheat a bit here. I'm going to take one of my light stands that I already have. But you don't have to use a light stand. You can use anything from I don't know, like a tall cupboard or just something to, as long as you just find something to prop it up, that should be fine. So, and I'm going to use one of my trusty clamps from Bunnings. I'm going to clamp it to my stand. we've got a fill board, and I'm gonna bring it in as close as I can to Maddie and put it on an angle. Yeah. So I'm not sure if you guys can see the difference. Hopefully you can see the difference on camera. It definitely is making a difference from where I'm standing. So I'm just I'll take it away and you can see. So turn to the left for me, Maddie. Turn your face to the left.
My left or
Your left, yeah.
my left?
Yeah. Yep, turn back to the front. So that's her with the dark side on the left side, and if I bring the board, oh, you can see how that just brightens up the left side of her face just ever so slightly. There's still a lot of contrast between the left side and right side of her face, so it might be to do with the way I'm positioning this current light. So I'll just bring it forward a bit more and a bit more to the side. Yep. So a lot of lighting is trying to adjust things in increments and improve as you go along as well, adjusting bit by bit. Cool. So that's what I've got. Now, what are we going to do with the background? Well, I'm going to take one of my table lamps that I have with the base, and I'm going to put it behind Maddie, and I'm going to shine it against the wall that's behind her. There we go. And I'm going to bring down my exposure just a little bit. There we go. So this is what we call, it's not quite a backlight, but we call it a practical light. And if you can see what it's doing, it's actually obviously shining a circular light at the wall behind Maddie. I'm going to turn the light on and off just to show you the difference. So what that's doing, it's creating a very natural vignette around Maddie's face and the top of her body. And it helps us draw the eyes into what's important on screen. So having a light shining in the wall behind gives that extra interest point as well. So we've gone up to this stage. There's one thing that's not quite right in this scene. And that is, if you notice all the lights, well, so far the backlight that I'm using on the top and the light that I'm shining at the back, they're both warm tungsten lights, except for the Hector light. The Hector light is white. And that's not consistent. And we do not want inconsistency, because consistency is our friend. So I am going to change out the white light for a tungsten light. And I'll show you the difference that makes. All right, here we go. Here we go. Ta-da! So now I've got all the lights are yellow and tungsten, and what do we notice immediately? It's just way too warm, isn't it? It's all yellow. Yeah, that's not cool. It's not cool because natural skin doesn't look yellow like that. So what you need to do to fix that is, if you're using a camera, you can adjust the color temperature in your camera, or if you're using a smartphone, the smartphone will actually automatically make the change for you. So I'm going to change my color temperature from warm to something that's a bit cooler and a bit more realistic. So maybe somewhere about there. How are you looking with that? Not too bad, eh? So that's definitely a lot more natural. It's not yellow and weird, but it's just, yeah, nice and pure. So there you go. So one other thing that we can do is, now that we've made all our lights consistent, you might find that it could be a little bit boring, given that everything's consistent. So I'm going to change out the light in the background, this lamp, from a tungsten light to a white daylight. And you'll see the difference it makes. Whoa! That's a blue light. I've actually not, it's not a special light, it's just a white light. But because it's the only light that's different from the other two lights that we have here, the camera perceives the light as blue. So that's one way you could make the shot look interesting, by having these contrasting colors as well. And that's how, playing around with different light bulbs might give you different results altogether. Yeah, and sometimes you might even decide, like, hey, I want to go even blue, so a blue gel like that, you probably could find from like a dollar store or something, and a little bit of tape. We tape it over the light, and it gives us an even bluer hue to the background. Yeah. What do you think, Sarah?
I think it looks great.
She thinks it looks great. Sarah's always very supportive of me. So right here, I think it looks fine. I'd still say the left side of Maddie, this side here, is still just a bit too dark for me. There's a bit too much contrast. Sometimes it might be the angle that we shine the whiteboard. So you can see, if I just put it flat to the side here, her face on this side does catch a bit of that light, but it's still dark. Whereas if I angled it a bit more, you can start to see a lot of that shadow is being lifted. So obviously we can't do that with this board here. So what else can we do? Well, now that I've put the whiteboard back on the fill side, how did I do this? Yeah, I think just here. Cool, okay. So I've put, it's in shot. Yeah, so I've got the whiteboard on that side. I'm going to bring in this white table, this white foldable table that we have. And I'm going to place it right in front of her. And you're going to see the difference. Whoops. Okay, here we go. All right, Maddie, here comes the table. There we go. Cool, okay. Are we on the white shot? Sorry. So I've placed a large white table in front of Maddie. It's slightly in shot, so you guys will have to forgive me. Okay, here we go. Yep, cool. Pull it out a bit. Yep. Just bring it back in. Yep. I'm gonna readjust the camera. Hey, there we go. So I've put a big white table right in front of Maddie. So what's happening? We've got the light shining directly at her. We've got some of that light shining at the whiteboard on that side, the left side, bouncing some of that light back into her face. We've also got the light shining onto the white surface of the table, shining back up on her chin to lift some of that shadow off, so that we've got a much, much more pleasing image to her face. So you may not have a white table, but really any table will do, as long as you can find a white piece of sheet that you can drape it over the table. That's going to act as like a reflector for you as well. Yeah, so Um, that's what, hopefully that's something that you guys can do with just Ikea lights at home. I'm going to show you one other light, which is to use this lampshade. We were talking about this before. What if you don't have a big Hector lamp like that? A lamp like this would also work well. So I'm going to turn off this Hector lamp. I'm going to pull it out. I'm going to bring it in. And the good thing about these lamps is that the shade themselves already act as a nice softener to the light. So soft light is what we want to have, because soft light gives us a very, very pleasing image. It softens our skins. It helps gives a much more natural look to it. That's in shot, so I'll try and bring it out a bit more. Bring it up to the front. Yep. So obviously you can tell that the light is not as bright as the Hector one, which is fine. We just have to compensate on our cameras to lift up the light levels. Yeah, it is a tad bit warmer on this lamp, but that's fine. That it works. It's not too bad. But it gives us that same quality of light. It's nice and soft, and it's pleasing on the eyes. So that was a long demonstration of how you could use IKEA lights. You can use any sort of lights, in fact, as long as you know what to do with the lights themselves. I think at this point, it might be worth, oh wow, we've gone quite over time. It might be worth taking some questions from the floor. You're right to still sit there, Maddie? I'm going to turn off the heater because it's getting a bit warm in here. Yeah, do we have any questions coming in?
Any tips when we're standing from Joel?
Any tips when we're standing? So if you're standing, the principles apply the same as well. So the principles don't change, they apply the same. The only difference is that, the only difference is that you got to make sure that the lights go higher, because you want the lights shining from from above, not from the side or from below. So then what you need to do is you could probably find milk crates, or you can find stools to prop the lights up higher. But be safe. Make sure the lights don't fall off as well. And look, if you got professional lights at home that you've already bought, again, the principles apply the same. It's just that with professional video lights, you can get the end results much faster than with home appliances. Yeah, thanks for that question, Joel.
When would you put the lights behind the camera?
When would I put the lights behind the camera? Probably never. Look, putting the lights behind the camera, it's not the most ideal scenario. I do understand that there are vloggers out there in YouTube land that they've got the lights that's shining directly in front of them. They've got one of those ring circular lights where the camera just shines. The camera records through the lights. It will give you a nice looking image, but it is a easy way of getting a good looking image, but it's not the most, shall I say, it's not the most natural way of lighting your subject. If you were going to do that, so if you were going to put the light directly behind the camera, so let's just say in this instance, I'm going to put the light as far forward as possible. Yep. So are we on that? Sorry, are we on Maddie? Yep. So in this shot, we've got the light just beside the camera, and as you can see, she's got that chin shadow just right underneath here, which is not flattering. If I remove this table, that shadow is going to be a lot more pronounced. So if you were going to have the light shining directly from behind the camera, you must have at least something to reflect the shadow from beneath the chin. So yeah, that's my advice. Is there other questions?
Yes. Do we have issues with flickering with certain FPS/formats?
Yes, you do. So I would naturally assume that all light bulbs that you buy from off the shelf, from whether it's from Kmart, from the supermarket, from Bunnings, you will have some flickering issues. So for those who don't know, the way LED light bulbs work is that sometimes LED light bulbs have very quick intermittent pulses. And sometimes if your camera settings are at the wrong settings, the camera can pick up those flickering pulses. And so what you end up with is a video image that has a lot of flickering going on in the video. The way you combat that is by adjusting your shutter speed if you can. If you have a camera that allows you to do that, to change it to a different shutter speed. Or if the light bulb is at full power, usually the flickering should be all right. Yeah, hope that helps. That's a good question. That's it, there's no more questions. Is that right?
No questions. Yeah. All good.
Wow, okay, that was quick. Cool, so yeah, thanks guys. Hopefully that was helpful. Hopefully that was, oh, we got one more.
Yeah. You used a whiteboard on one side. Can you use two lights with one on each side?
Yeah, yes you can. And maybe I should demonstrate that. So let's just say we'll take the whiteboard off. So that side of Mandy is in the dark, figuratively speaking. And I'll take this other light that we were using, and I'll bring it across. Ooh, hopefully the cable, yep, cool. All right, and I'll put it across here, as close as possible. So, yeah, that's one way you could make a fill light as well as to use a separate light. What I would say is that you want to make sure that the fill light is not as strong as the main key light, because you still want a bit of that definition. You want a bit of a darker side to the face so that you can see the shape of the face. But definitely that works. One thing you do have to be aware of, and you want to be careful, is that if you introduce a light on the other side, then you will see some weird shadows happening around the nose area there. But yes, that's definitely one way you can create a fill light. That's it. Cool. Well, thanks guys. We're pretty on time. It's 9 o'clock. Hope this has been helpful. If you got any questions, feel free to email me. Yeah, feel free to get in touch with me. I'm happy to take calls. Well, no, that's not true. I'm happy to take emails or meet up with you guys on Zoom if you need some extra help. Till then, God bless and go in peace to love and serve the Lord.